Okay, Assalamu alaikum everybody, and thank you very much for coming. Today is Mother's Day, as you all know, but in Islam there is no such thing as Mother's Day. Every day is Mother's Day. But what I thought we would do is that we would talk about parents, we will talk about parenthood, roles and responsibilities of parents, but also roles and responsibilities of children as well, and have a look at some of the problems that are happening, not just in our community, but everywhere in the world when it comes to children. So a lot of people say, why are you doing this talk today on Mother's Day when we don't celebrate Mother's Day? But if you look at the Quranic ayahs that came down, they always came down when that bad thing was happening. And in that way, in context, you understand it better. There's no point, for example, talking about Easter when Easter has gone, or doing it at other times of the year. Why not pinpoint it right when it is the time, even though we don't celebrate some of these things? So that's why I'm doing this today, because it links in actually with mothers. And I can't do this talk without talking about myself first, because all of you know Islamically, yes, I've got all the knowledge, but some of the things I'm going to cover today are actually to do with my job. So something I've never spoken about really is my actual job. So I am a qualified teacher, first of all, postgraduate certificate of education, and I have got further specialism. I've got an MSc equivalent in special educational needs, which includes social and emotional, mental health and well-being needs. And some of the things that I've been doing in the past, I've arranged and chaired and hosted Brentwood Schools. SENCO is actually the shortened version of Special Educational Needs Coordinator. So I've chaired all the meetings and spoken in them as well in Brentwood. I've trained other SENCOs in Essex. I have represented primary SENCOs for Essex County Council. I'm the Vice Chair on Brentwood Behaviour, Attendance and Pastoral Meetings. That is vital, because that is the future of what is going wrong with the children and how we can put it right. And then I've represented all SENCOs in Essex, regularly giving lectures on special educational needs and disabilities and mental health at conferences and universities. And I've actually run parenting courses with specialists, not just on my own, on behaviour, healthy mental health and emotional development in children. And at the moment, some of you know that I'm working in university as a lecturer, and I actually deal with special educational needs at the degree level in childhood and behaviour studies. Written plenty of journals as well. I didn't get to the Queen for nothing, you know. All of this stuff obviously is on top of everything else that I've been doing. So this is what we're going to cover today. We're going to first of all cover the importance of parents, and we're going to look at separate roles, mothers and fathers. Then we're going to look at roles and responsibilities of parents, our individual roles. Then we will look at the healthy mental and emotional development of children according to the Quran, Sunnah and research, which is where my job comes in. Obviously my job isn't to do with Islam. And the roles and responsibilities of children. Children have a huge responsibility. Did you know? Half the responsibility is parents' responsibility. The rest of it is the children's. Are they listening? Are they going on board with everything that we're telling them? Because from what I can see, parents nowadays are doing quite a good job, but it's the children that are the ones that are the problem, who are stubborn and not listening. And it's only apparent in this country, not back home, for example. You get children from back home coming. I've had cousins' children coming, and they're so well behaved and so respectful. So something is wrong in this country as well. So let's start from the very beginning. This is our parental genealogy tree. And if we look at our parental genealogy tree, we can see Adam right here at the bottom. Adam is basically the very first father. So right before the beginning of time, Adam and Hawa, or Adam and Eve, are actually our parents. And it says in the Quran, "O mankind, fear your Lord, who created you from a single soul, and from him created his wife, Hawa, and from both of them he created many men and women, and fear Allah, through whom you demand your mutual rights, and don't cut the relations of the wombs. Indeed, Allah is ever all-watcher over you. That's Surah Nisa, women, and that's chapter 4, ayah number 1. And that's actually explaining to us that we are all brothers and sisters of one another. We are from the lineage of Adam and Eve, our parents. And the bit about don't cut the relations of the wombs, that actually it's even more important with relations not to cut off any ties, but also with each other, because we are all indirectly related to one another. So that's what it's trying to tell you. It's actually in the Quran not to break off any ties with any relations. In fact, who knows how many days you are after which you have to make up? Who knows what it's written in the hadiths? 3. After 3 days of breaking up with somebody, whether it's relatives, like I said, it's even more important, or family, you should make up after that. Others, Allah will not be happy with you. So we're going back to our genealogy tree. We started off with Adam. The next religion we're going to focus on is Judaism. What does it say in Judaism about parents? What are we looking at here? What was revealed to Moses? Yes, Aisha? Commandments. The 10 Commandments, excellent. The 10 Commandments, and as you can see, the 5th one says, honor thy father and thy mother. Okay? And it was actually apparent even in those times. There are also many, many prophets who were very good fathers, role models and fathers. Who can give me an example in biblical times of a very good father who was tested of his fatherhood? Ibrahim. Good, well done. Ibrahim alayhi salam. I'm glad you're in the audience because you're very active with the answers, which is excellent. That should all spark everyone else up as well. So Ibrahim alayhi salam was actually tested with his fatherhood. His only son, who he had after many, many years, after 86 years old, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told him to kill him, to sacrifice him. He was tested with his fatherhood, and he showed himself really to be very obedient to Allah, and his son was so obedient. Which son would say, yes, go ahead, Dad, kill me? His son was so obedient to him. You don't get teenagers like that nowadays, do you? If that was ever to happen. Okay, what's the next religion now? Aisha?
Christianity.
Good. Christianity is the next one, and a very big motherhood figure in Christianity is Mary or Maryam. Okay, and again, she was chosen according to Islam. It says in the Quran, behold, the angel said, O Mary, Allah has chosen you and purified you, chosen you above the women of all nations. And that's in Surah Imran, which is chapter 3, verse 42. And now we go back to our genealogy tree. What's the next one? Next religion. Good old Islam, which we know was a perfection of all the previous religions. And mothers especially, first of all we will start with mothers, but then we will also talk about fathers as well. Mothers were elevated hugely in Islam. What did it say about mothers in Islam? Yes, do you want to say that properly?
Jannah's under the mother's feet.
Good. So, Islam raised the status of women from below the earth to so high that paradise lies at her feet. And here is actually a hadith. O Messenger of Allah, I want to go out and fight in jihad, and I have come to ask your advice. And this is somebody who came to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, do you have a mother? He said, yes. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, then stay with her, for paradise is beneath her feet. Okay, and that is actually in a couple of hadiths. The one I've quoted here is Surah An-Nisa, volume 4. So, right before the beginning of time, mothers were always important, but it was Islam that perfected that and made women rise really high. And it was for the first time revealed that in Islam, Jannah is actually at their feet. Okay? And what we mean by that is that the mother, she was your door into this dunya, she is a door to Jannah, take care of this door. And also, what does it say about fathers in relation to paradise in Islam? Does anybody know? We can't leave the poor fathers out here, can we? What does it say about the fathers in relation to Jannah? With women, paradise is under their feet. What about fathers? You don't know? Nobody knows. Okay. The father is the middle door of paradise. Okay? The best way to paradise. So it is up to you whether you take advantage of it or not. The best the door of paradise is bound to be through the middle. It's not the back way or the side way to paradise. It's right through the middle way. And what we mean by both of those terms is that if your parents are alive, be grateful at the opportunity to earn Jannah by serving them. And that's exactly what it means. By serving your parents, that is the direct route to paradise. Especially with your mother, it's entering the door of paradise. And with your father, it's entering through the middle. Okay? So what other role models have we got in Islam of very good fathers? Good. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We know that he was the perfect father because when he was 4 years old, his heart was washed by 2 angels. That's why I've got the 2 angel wings there up on the slide. And then we know his heart was washed again. When was his heart washed again? For the second time?
When he went up for the Miraj.
Good. When he went up for the Miraj, Laylatul Miraj. And there his heart was washed again for the second time, which means the black spot was taken out. And because of that, he had no sin. He was the perfect person to follow. This is why we follow his sunnah. We do everything that he did because he was the perfect example of fatherhood as well as everything else. Who is the best father mentioned in the Quran? And he was not a prophet but a very pious man. There is actually a surah named after him in the Quran. Does anybody know?
Imran.
Luqman. Okay. There were 6 advices which Luqman gave to his son. And the third one, right after, first of all being grateful to Allah, and then performing prayers, was be dutiful and good to your parents. Okay? And that was very, very good advice, and that's actually in the Quran. We can also go through so many more examples from hadiths and from the Quran about mothers especially. So it was narrated that Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, said, a man came to the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, and said, O Messenger of Allah, who among the people is most deserving of my good company? He said, your mother. He asked, then who? He said, your mother. He asked, then who? He said, your mother. 3 times. Then he asked, then who? And then he said, your father. So that is narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. And we've actually got the numbers there, 5626 and 2548, if you want to look it up. So there's one more story that I want to cover. And then we will actually look at the individual importance and roles of the individual mothers and fathers. So there is one story of somebody called Alqama, radiallahu anhu, and he was a very pious man. He did all his 5 pillars. He believed in Allah, he prayed 5 times a day, he always gave lots of money to charity, he always did his fasting as well. And he had done Hajj as well. He had done everything. And basically what happened was, he was about to die, and all his friends around him were trying to get him to say the Shahada, and he couldn't say it. His mouth was completely blocked, and even though he wanted to say it, he couldn't say the Shahada. So what happened was, somebody went and called Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and said, look, come and see this person, we are really worried about him. He's such a pious person, how comes he can't say the Shahada? So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, did he pray 5 times? And everybody said, yes, he did. Did he pay zakat? Yes, he did. He paid zakat. Did he fast in Ramadan? Yes, he always fasted. And he did other fasts as well. Did he do his hajj? Everything was yes. And then Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what about his mother? Was he good to his mother? And they all said, do you know what? I don't know the last time he saw his mum. I've hardly seen her recently. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, go and call his mother. So when they called the mother, she didn't look very happy. And they asked her, what do you want to say about Alqama? What would you like to say about him? And she said, I'm not happy about him at all. I am displeased with him. He disobeys me. He always disobeys me. I am therefore displeased with him. And what happened there was, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, look, he's about to die and you need to forgive him. He can't say his shahada. Okay? And she said, no, I'm not going to forgive him. I'm very angry with him. I'm upset. I've been ill. He hasn't been to come and see me. He's been too busy with his wife. He hasn't bothered coming to see me, and I don't care. She was angry with him. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, right, everybody, go and get and light up a great big fire and throw Alqama in that fire. Okay? And everybody got really worried. And then the mother said, what are you doing? You're going to throw Alqama in the fire? And they said, yes. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, it's better if we throw him in the fire in this dunya, because the fire in the next dunya, hellfire, will be 70 times more hotter. So it's better if we throw him in now. Do you think she let them do that? She said, no, stop right there. I forgive him, I forgive him. And then when Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam went up to Alqama and said, right, your mum's forgiven you, say your shahada. Could he say it? Yes. He said his shahada beautifully, and then he passed away. So this is a classic example of, you can be as good as you like, but if you're not good to your mother, you will not go to Jannah. In fact, you won't even die a Muslim, because the shahada is a proclamation of being a Muslim, isn't it? You know, to believe in one Allah and also to believe in the Prophet being the last messenger. So why is it that mothers are so important in Islam? Why is it they're so important? Yes?
They give birth to you.
They give birth to you. Well done. Good. They give birth to you. Women are half the society which gives birth to the other half. So it is as if they are the entire society. Okay? So, basically, did you know that right while they are while the baby is in the mother's womb, the mother has a responsibility. Do you know what that is? What is that responsibility that mothers have right while the baby is in the womb?
Healthy.
Being healthy, eating healthy, anything else?
Praying for the baby.
No drugs, no drink, no cigarettes. Okay? All of these affect the baby. And did you know it's a proven fact that if you listen to the Quran while you are pregnant, the baby can actually hear the Quran. And did you know that there was one lady who listened to the whole Quran while her baby was in her womb, and when the baby was born and it was about 2-3 years old, it was a Hafiz Quran. Isn't that amazing? So they're learning even while they're in there. Now, going back to my job again, which I explained earlier, I said my job will come into this. The first question that all doctors will ask, if there is a child who has got ADHD or autism or anything, any special need, is how was your pregnancy? Was it a traumatic birth? Because a traumatic birth or a bad pregnancy can then lead to problems later on. It can, according to your diet and everything. So very, very important. Did you know mother's role and responsibility starts from right while the baby is in there, including any arguments as well that you have within the couple. That affects the baby as well. Adrenaline rises. Did you know that there's more adrenaline than in babies because of this fight and flight thing? You can look this up, fight and flight. They need the adrenaline, so when they are born, to get out of danger, they've got the adrenaline to help them run away. And that's what then causes ADHD. So I'm talking from experience, and I did talk to you about all my qualifications earlier, but I'm not going to repeat myself for those who came late. Also, then the actual birth. And we have enjoined upon man to his parents good treatment. His mother carried him with hardship and gave birth to him with hardship. So first it talks about hardship while she's carrying the baby for 9 months. We can't sleep at night, we're in pain, can't eat properly. Mothers here all know who have given birth how difficult it is the whole 9 months. What about all the vomiting at the beginning? Can't eat properly, carrying the baby for 9 months. And then it talks about the hardship at birth as well. And it's a proven fact that human body can bear only up to 45 decibels, units of pain. Did you know yet at the time of giving birth, a mother feels up to 57 units of pain. This is similar to 20 bones getting fractured at a time. And some of the mothers who have given birth will know exactly what I'm talking about. We would never want to go through it again, would we? Once we've had all our children. For the first time in Islam, girls were given huge privilege. In the olden days, in the Jahiliyyah times, the girls were actually killed at birth or buried alive. But it said in the Quran, and when the girl who was buried alive is asked, for what sin was she killed? That's in Surah At-Takwir, 81, chapter 81, verses 8 to 9, the overthrowing. And also, narrated Al-Mughira, the Prophet ﷺ said, Allah has forbidden for you to bury your daughters alive. This was happening with the fact that girls would be the ones who wouldn't be bringing their income in when the children get older. It's the boys who are normally the ones who would go out and work and would bring their income in. And this is at a time where there was no social security and benefits and things. So for the first time, girls were given status. And Hazrat Anas reported that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ stated that when a boy is born, he brings 1 light, and when a girl is born, she brings 2 lights. Isn't that amazing? And this was to stop the pagan Arabs killing their daughters. There's also so many other hadiths. We've got Anas narrates that Rasulullah ﷺ said, whoever maintains 2 girls until they attain maturity, he and I will come on the day of Qiyamah like this, at which the Prophet joined 2 adjacent fingers up like this next to each other. Okay? Right, let's go on to the role of fathers. Why are they important? We'll have a father trying to answer this one, I think. I like the way Nassim looked at her husband there thinking, he ain't going to know. He's not going to know. Come on, fathers, why are you important? I think they need a bit of confidence, don't they? Okay, fathers are very important. If it wasn't for fathers, how would there be a baby in the first place? Okay? So Ali ibn Hussein said, the right of your father on you is that you should know that it is he who brought you into existence. And you are a branch of the tree of his life. And that goes back to that beautiful genealogy tree I showed you earlier. There was only men on there, wasn't there? Yes? Because the lineage comes from the father. And without the father, you cannot make a child. You need a father to make the child. The other very important thing that a father does is that he is the one who chooses the gender of the baby. Okay? Some of you who may know genetics there is a double X chromosome there for the mother and an XY chromosome for the father. So it is actually the father, depending on him whether he donates an X chromosome or a Y chromosome, that the gender of the baby is actually determined. And it's actually written in the Quran. He is the one who creates the two kinds, male and female, from a tiny drop of semen. And that's in chapter 53, verses 45 to 46. And this actually, believe it or not, is only in the 60s when the chromosomes under the microscope were all investigated that this came out to light. But 1400 years ago this was mentioned in the Quran. So very, very important role. The other thing that fathers do is it's from the father that the religion of the child is carried on according to Islam, which is the reason why women are asked to marry Muslim men, okay? Because the children, their religion comes from the father. And it's also the responsibility of the father to marry someone who is deeply interested in the deen, because that is who your children will follow as well. And we've got Umar radiallahu anhu who said, the children too have rights over their father. First of all, he should search for a good mother for his son. He should marry a good religious woman. When we did the last lecture on marriage of the prophets, we said that one of the only thing he looked at was the religion of the wife that he married. And we know about the hadith about you can marry them for their beauty and their money and their father's name, but it's only religion, it's those ones that will prosper, because beauty goes with age. Bankrupt you can become at any time, but religion stays with you forever. So it's important to marry someone pious. Fathers are also encouraged in Islam to have a basket full of children. Okay? So this is the reason why you're supposed to have a lot of children, because it then spreads Islam more, doesn't it? Yes, it spreads Islam more into the world, the more children that you've got. This is why the more religious you are, for example, imams, have you noticed? They always have a lot of children, don't they? 7 or 8 is the average for any imam, because they know what the religion says. Obviously that is health permitting of the wife as well. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has said that kill not your children because of poverty, for it is we, Allah, who will give sustenance to you and your children. And that is again in Surah Nisa, and which is chapter 4, verse 151. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala telling you that don't worry, have as many children as you like. It is Allah who is going to provide food for them. He will provide sustenance for them. Okay, so we've had the baby now, it's born, okay? What is the first rite that a parent has to do once the baby is born? Think of the baby being in a hospital. You'll have to put your hands up, there's too many people talking at once. Put your hands up if you've got an answer. Yes?
Do you recite the Shahada?
Yep, but even before that, the baby is dirty.
Oh, clean.
Right? The baby has just come out from a region that's dirty, and just like our cycle blood is dirty, it's got all that on it. The first thing is, give it a bath, okay? Ghusl. When the baby is born, first the baby is cleaned and dressed, and a ghusl is given full bath. This is a bit like a wudu, isn't it? Yes? A bit like a wudu. You're all laughing away, and I don't know why that is. Is it the picture? Okay, then we do what the clever boy over there just said, which is you do the, it isn't the shahada, okay, it's the adhan, okay, so Abu Rafi said, I saw the Prophet give the adhan and iqama in the ears of Hussein. So Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to do this with his grandchildren, with Hassan and with Hussein. So basically, the adhan is said in the right ear. A lot of people don't know this. The adhan is said in the right ear, and the iqama is said in the left ear. Okay? And did you know that, why do we do this? Who knows about this one?
Is it because Shaitan comes and tricks the baby and so
Good.
they resign to take the...
Excellent, well done, excellent answer. And nobody usually gets that, so well done to you. When the baby's born, the shaitan comes and pricks you and affects you. So why we do this is to protect the baby from jinn. Makes the jinn run straight out of that door. Okay? And also, something very interesting, when someone is born, the adhan is given, but there is no prayer. When someone dies, there is a prayer, but there is no adhan. The adhan of our birth belongs to the prayer of our death. That's how short our life is in this dunya. Isn't that so scary? And it's true, isn't it? It is so true. And we will be talking about death later on at the end, about parents dying and what we have to do as well. Right, what's next? All of you have had babies, you've done the washing, you've done in a wudu, you've done in a way, you've done the adhan and the iqama. What do you do next? Yes?
Honey and dates?
Good. Now, dates is the sunnah. Honey is just in this country where there are no dates. But dates is the sunnah. And did you know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ carried on the sunnah of Maryam? Did you know that? Maryam, radiallahu anha, is the first person, when Jesus was born, she got the date from the tree and she squeezed the juice in his mouth. So it is her sunnah which Prophet Muhammad ﷺ revived, and we copy him. And did you know that scientists have only now proven that tahniq, which is the actual softening and rubbing the palate of the newborn baby with dates, it's only now proven, and it was BBC, did you know, who exposed this news, that nowadays, if a dose of sugar is given as a gel and rubbed into the inside of a cheek of a baby, it protects premature babies against brain damage. So a little bit of sugar surge for a baby is a good thing. And when it's born and it is very early days, you haven't breastfed it yet, by the way, you're supposed to do all this before you breastfeed it, they need a bit of sugar surge. So this is very, very good. Okay, then what is the next thing? Did you know? With us, we definitely did this. When our baby was born, we straight away knew what? Pardon?
The naming of
The name, good. You should really, before the baby's born, have a name ready. If it's a boy, we're going to call it this. If it's a girl, we're going to call it this. Because the amount of kerfuffles there are afterwards, honestly, within the family, especially amongst our Asian community. The granddad wants to call it this. The grandmother wants to call it this. The mother-in-law wants to call it this. The whole family is just better to do it before, honestly. It is better to do it before. And did you know we're even given guidance on that? Children's rights. Umar said the children to have rights over their father. The second right is to name a child with a good name. Who knows the top 2 names which are specified in the hadiths for a boy? Yes?
Muhammad, Abdullah,
No, I'm just choosing the person at the back, sorry.
Abdullah and Abdul Rahman.
Excellent, that is the only answer. Okay? For the first 2 options. Abdullah means the servant of Allah, and Abdul Rahman is the other one. And that's specified in the hadiths. Then after that, you can name them after prophets. So Muhammad, top name, it used to be the top name, did you know, but it isn't anymore. Thanks to Islamophobia, people are naming their names, children's names, neutral names like Adam or Zachariah, where you don't know what religion they are. That's the latest in schools, in this country anyway, in the non-Muslim countries. So Muhammad or Isa or Uzair, I'm just saying that because they're in the audience, things like that. And then the Sahaba names, Abu Bakr, Uthman, Umar, okay? That is what we have been told. So Rasulullah said, of our names, Allah likes Abdullah and Abdul Rahman the most. That is in Sahih Muslim. And call yourselves by the names of the prophets. That's in Abu Dawud. And did you know that in Islam, if you call them a good name, they mimic that personality. So you call them good names, and in Islam, they psychologically become like that person. So it's very, very important. What about girls? What can you call girls? Yes? Yes, but what are they?
Mother of the believers.
Right, the very first one is the Prophet's wives.
Khadija and
Khadija, and also Maryam, you know, people like Maryam who were the top out of all the women.
Aisha.
Yes, and Aisha is another Prophet's wife's name. But then also other people like Asma. Okay, I'm choosing all the people who are in the audience. Because mashallah, you're all pious and you're all here and you've all got lovely names. That's why you're pious. Did you know that? Because you've all been named good names. Some names are made up and they need to be avoided. Okay? One of them I've come across is Ruxana. Did you know that's a completely made up name and it doesn't have a meaning? Or when you pronounce it differently, like Thamina, people call it Samina. Okay? And Samina means fat. So Pakistanis haven't looked at the sound. They've changed the sound to a sa, and that actually means fat in Arabic. So, you know, that is important. And say there is a name like Hur, and they put Iya on the end, and they make it up. Huria is made up, because the actual word is Hur in the Quran, or any others. I don't want to embarrass anyone, but any others, the actual word is different in the Quran, and then they put Iya on the end and make it different. You're not allowed to do that. Also, pet names is very important. According to Islam, if there is a pious prophet's name, then you're not allowed to make it a pet name. For example, I don't know, Uzair, you can't say Uzi. Muhammad doesn't become Mo. Zachariah doesn't become Zaki. Or any others. You have to call it the full name because you're changing the meaning of it. Okay? Let's carry on. And did you know that on the day of Qiyamah you be called by your names and your father's names. So make your names good. That's Abu Dawud. This is another reason. You don't want to be called Uzi in the middle of Qiyamah, do you, in front of everyone? You know, you want to be called by your proper prophet's name. Okay, very, very important. I'm saying this in particular because this happens a lot within our culture. Okay, they've got perfectly brilliant names and they're Cuckoo or Baby or Choo Choo or, you know, Yacha and all these other names, honestly. In Pakistan, there's not a single uncle that I've got who even know what their real name is. They've all got all these pet names. It's wrong. You have to call them by their proper name. Honestly, it's not good. Okay, we are encouraged to take on board orphans. The Prophet Muhammad said, I and the person who looks after the orphan and provides for him will be in paradise like this. That's Sahih al-Bukhari. And again, 2 fingers up, very, very close to each other. And because of that, then Muslims do adopt children. But those adopted children are not your true children. We talked about this last time when Prophet Muhammad adopted Zayd. He wanted someone to carry on the prophethood, and an ayah of the Quran came down to say he is not your true son. So, and he hasn't made your adopted sons your true sons. That's merely your saying by your mouths. But Allah says the truth, and He guides to the right way. Call them by the names of their fathers. It's more just in the sight of Allah. And that's Surah Al-Ahzab, and that is verse 4 to 5. So very important, if you do adopt a son, then you have to keep the surname that of their own fathers. So Zayd's name then was changed, or well, it wasn't changed in the first place, but it was kept as Ibn Harith, which was according to his dad. Okay, and also this is the reason why when women get married, they are not allowed to, according to Islam, change their surnames. Even Khadija, who was married to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, she was still called Khuwaylid, her surname, according to her father. And all of his wives that we discussed last time, all of them, none of them changed their surnames, even though they were married to the Prophet. So Prophet Muhammad said, whoever calls himself by other than his father's name will be cursed by Allah. That's Ibn Majah, Sahih al-Albani. He also said, whoever knowingly claims to belong to anyone other than his father, paradise will be denied him. And that's in 3 very strong hadiths, Ahmad, Bukhari, Muslim. Narrated Abu Hurairah, the Prophet said, do not deny your fathers, claim to be the sons of persons other than your fathers, and whoever denies his father is charged with disbelief. So there are so many narrations actually telling us about that. Okay, your baby now is getting bigger, you're out of hospital, okay, and we're coming up to the 7th day. What do you do next? Not yet, not yet. Something you do first.
Circumcision.
Good, well done. Circumcision is first, okay? So for the boy there should be an hakika for him, but you should remove the harmful thing, the foreskin, from him first. That's in Al-Tirmidhi 1515 and Al-Nasai. Abu Hurairah relates that Rasulullah said 5 acts are from fitrah, natural decency, and the first one, did you know, is to get circumcised. That's in Bukhari. And did you know that modern research has proven that those who are uncircumcised suffer a higher rate of urinary tract disease caused by a number of germs, especially E. coli, with a higher rate of pus and bacteria in the urine. The link between cervical cancer and uncircumcised men has also been proven. So it is recommended that it is done by the 7th day, but definitely before 7 years old. In the olden days, there was very few people who could even perform circumcision. We're going right back in early times in this country. So people went back to Pakistan and got it done then, there, or in their own home countries later on, which I do know quite a lot of people who got that done. That's fine, absolutely fine. But the earlier you do it, the better it is for the child, because when they're older, it's very painful. When they're younger, they're going to forget and they won't remember it. So it's important. After the circumcision, what do you do next? The hakika is not yet. Good, the hair. Why? Why do we shave the hair? It's unclean. It's unclean. Okay? Even though you gave it a ghusl, it's unclean. When Hassan was born, the Prophet Muhammad told his daughters, Fatima, shave his head and give the weight of his hair in silver to the poor. So you're giving charity as well to thank Allah really for your child. The right side of the head should be shaved first, then the left as mentioned. Shave, and he indicated to the right side of his head and then the left. So Prophet Muhammad actually even told us how to do that, and that's again in Sahih Muslim. And that should be by the 7th day. Okay? And then, what are we ready to do now? Hakika. Okay? Hakika, there's our lamps. Just to keep you all awake. Rasulullah said, if anyone has a child born to him and wishes to offer a sacrifice on his behalf, he should offer 2 sheep for a boy and 1 for a girl. Abu Dawud, that is, and Tirmidhi. Every child is in pledge for its hakika, which is sacrificed for it on its 7th day, and it is named on it, and its head is shaved. So all 3 sort of come together. And with the sheep, this one is a bit of a controversial issue. Why 2 sheep for a boy and 1 for a girl? Has anyone ever thought about this?
Is it to do with inheritance as well, because like men get double share?
It is linked with that as well, because men get double share, but that's because they have to provide for the family. But a baby's not going to provide for their family, are they? But do you remember what we said? When a girl is born, she brings 2 lights, double blessings. So in a way, the boy now, to be equal to the girl, is going to get double blessings by doing it this way. It makes it all equal. Okay, so if you think about it, it's quite clever, really. Everything there is a reason. And the meat then is given either cooked or uncooked to the poor and relatives and friends. It's distributed. And you can, and you are allowed to have a hakika party as well. And this is something I see a lot in our community. They'll have birthday parties, first birthday, and yeah, they'll have the birthday parties. But when it comes to hakika, nobody mentions anything. But there was actually one brother here last year, actually, when I did this lecture, and he had a newborn baby and he did a hakika, and he invited me and he told me, I'm doing this hakika because of you, because I learnt that from your lecture, which I was just so happy to hear when people follow the right way. So we should all try and have a hakika party. It's very important. Okay, the next role of a mother in particular is then to stay with her child. Does anybody know for how many years according to the Quran? Yes?
For 2 years.
2 years, okay? 2 years. If you naturally look at babies, baby animals, you always see the mother being with the child. You don't see them just running off and leaving their little ducklings, do you? Or a mother cat stays with the child. And there is so much detachment disorder going on nowadays. Do you know that? Talk to a lot of special needs children who are showing autistic type behaviours, and the mothers just left them with nannies who can't speak English and went off to work or did whatever. And it's very, very important. I am telling you the way of the Quran, and it tells you in the Quran for 2 years. Okay? That is the crucial time, really, when you need to be with the child. So, again, the main reason is they need feeding. Okay? These little birds are hungry and they need food. And look around in nature and you will never see an animal that has left their offspring and not nurturing them. You will always see the mother bird feeding her babies, like in the picture. You will never see them leaving them with a babysitter, will you? Go and get another bird to look after the babies, and then you go. We have to look at nature. And no matter what we like, what we say, this is our right as a mother. We give birth to them. We're the ones who give the breast milk to them, naturally. If it was up to men to look after them, then Allah would have given them milk in their bodies. But we are the ones who have been given the milk. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us natural multitasking skills so that we can feed a baby, we can mop the floor, we can cook, we can change the nappies all at the same time. And it's really interesting the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us those special skills for a reason. Men, is well known, don't multitask because they don't need to do it. They just need to do their one thing and that's it. Okay? So here it is in the Quran, writes as a mother, we have enjoyed man concerning his parents. His mother carried him in her womb while suffering weakness upon weakness, and then weans him in 2 years. Be grateful to me and to your parents, and to me is your final destination. But if they argue with you to commit shirk, that of which you have no knowledge, do not obey them, yet treat them kindly in this world. And that's Surah Luqman, the one on that famous parent. That's chapter 31, verses 14 to 15. So if you look at Ibrahim alayhi salam, his father was an idol worshipper. But Ibrahim alayhi salam didn't listen to him, did he? Because he was doing bad. So that is one time when we can say, sorry mum, we're not listening to you. That's shirk. Okay? But that still doesn't mean, even then it tells you in the Quran to treat them with kindness. The other very important thing is breast milk. It is very, very important. Breast milk is very important. It tells you in the Quran to wean them for 2 years. And it is only now recently proven again that it's microbiologically sterile, biochemically superior, a natural way of family planning. Physician benefits, provides warmth, psychological benefits like bonding. Did you know that when you breastfeed your baby, you are cuddling it? And it's increasing serotonins. and it's bonding the baby to you. And did you know that when they're older, that smell of you they recognize in your clothes, the fragrance of you while you are breastfeeding them. Immunologically safe, prevents infections as well. Did you know that all this other feeding, express feeding nowadays, it doesn't create that bonding? It may be your milk, but it doesn't create that warmth and that hug, that psychological bonding. There's actually more. Prevents diarrhea, ear infections, pneumonia and asthma, cuts risk of sudden infant death syndrome, lowers risk for obesity, developing allergies. Maybe that's why allergies are on the increase. I wonder if anyone's written a journal about that. And the benefits for the mum, did you know that there's less risk of breast cancer and ovarian cancer, prevents postpartum depression, and helps with 2 types of diabetes, and it reduces stress because of all this hormonal stuff that is released. So it's very, very good for you. When my daughter was born, my brother got chickenpox as an adult, and it was fatal. And we were really, really worried, actually, that our daughter was going to get it. So we took her to the doctors, and the doctor said that, don't worry, did you breastfeed her? And I said, yes. And they said, don't worry, she won't catch it. And she didn't. So there's a classic proof. Also, you should feed your baby. Don't do this, for example. Okay? You're leaving it to someone else to feed your baby. That bonding won't be there. When you feed the baby looks into your eyes as well and smiles. You smile at it. That bonding is all there. And like I said, all the serotonins that get increased. And it is up to us not to do this either. Fend for yourself, eat your own breakfast, okay, while you go to the gym early in the morning. So it's recommended in the Quran that you should not leave your baby like this. Instead, you should be doing this. Okay? You feed your baby properly like you would feed your pet cat. You look after your cat properly, don't you? But your children are more important than your pet cats. And toileting needs. You don't just leave them there on the toilet, do you, to read a paper? You have to go, and you need to be their carers, proper carers, when it comes to toileting needs as well. But fathers do have a big role here. It doesn't mean that the mum does everything and the fathers don't help out at all. So with the mums, you know, the children are saying, they're always going to her, I'm hungry, can I? I'm cold, I can't find mine, is dinner ready yet? Where is my shirt? And they go to the dad and they go, where's mum? Or go to your mum. That's not allowed either, because we know that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ helped within the household. Okay? It is sunnah to help family with housework. Aisha, the wife of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, was asked, what did the Prophet used to do in his house? She replied, he used to keep himself busy serving his family, and when it was time for prayer, he would go for it. And that's in Bukhari. And there's another lovely little older sister helping out with the dishes there. It's not just things like the Prophet used to cook, sew, and he used to take the trash out as well. There's the narrations of that which we covered in Aisha's marriage last time. But other things you can do with just tidying up the house generally. You know, if the men don't want to do all of that, they can at least tidy up the house, because that's a big help, isn't it? Tidy up the sitting room, tidy up the bedroom, or at least fold your own clothes after washing and, you know, that kind of stuff. Also, did you know that mums have been given one more very good trait? Does anybody know what that is? Naturally from Allah.
Empathy.
Pardon?
Empathy.
Empathy. Okay, we have more empathy and caring skills. There's a reason for that, because we are the first carers of the child. Allah has made us more emotional, so we feel how the child feels and more likely to feel sympathy for them and then look after them. When a baby is ill, who is the one who is going to help out at night, putting the medicines, giving the medicines to the baby, and putting it to bed. It's always the mothers, isn't it? And who stays up all night worrying about the children and making dua with them, dua for them? It's always the mother, isn't it? We worry the most and we feel sympathy. And who is the one who actually ends up then sleeping with their child at night as well? It's always the mother. This one is sleeping with her little Isa in her bed. Okay? Because the poor baby's too ill. So did you know that throughout life, mothers don't sleep again? When they're pregnant, they don't sleep, do they? For 9 months, tossing and turning. Then here, the baby's up at night crying, she can't sleep again. Then, by this stage, she's got another couple of children. So she can't sleep. If it's not one, it's the other that's awake and crying. Then we look again. One of them's ill now, so she can't sleep. And then teenagers. Mum, don't wait up, I'm going to be out late. He walks out of the door. And the poor mother is up all night, not being able to sleep because she doesn't know what's going on. This actually happens when the child is in university as well. You're forever worrying about them, forever worrying about them. Now, with men, they do have some empathy. We know, for example, that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did cry on 3 occasions. One was when his wife, Khadija radiallahu anha, passed away, and once when his son Ibrahim passed away. The eyes shed tears and the heart grieves, and we will not say except what pleases our Lord. O Ibrahim, indeed we are grieved by your separation. That's in Bukhari. So they do feel it, they just don't show it so much. They are more stronger emotionally. So you won't get really a father crying so much as girls. But it doesn't mean that they don't show it. They do feel empathy. But obviously you can't leave the children completely in their care because they're not going to feel for it as much as you would as a child. When my children are ill, I mean, mostly they would, jobs and things they would go and talk to their dad about. But when they're ill, they always come to me, which I find quite interesting. They'll always come and tell me, Mum, we're ill, we're not well, kind of thing. So it does show. The other thing is hugging and kissing. Again, a mother may be educated or not, but she's the best teacher from whom we can learn how to show care and affection. And did you know that kisses and hugs is a bonding exercise and it releases serotonins like when you have a massage? It's exactly the same kind of thing. So these are all different kinds of mothers hugging and kissing their children, because it is the right of the Muslim child and all children to be cared for and loved and to become properly bonded with his or her parents, especially in those early critical years. And this is where, again, in my profession, I find a lot of children who have got detachment disorder because they haven't bonded with their mothers at an early age. The mother's selfish, she worries more about herself, or she leaves the baby to babysitters and all the rest, goes out to work. I know that sometimes we have to work for a living, but there's a limit, isn't there? There's a limit. So you can be with the child whenever they're at home. You can change your profession. I started off as a scientist, 9-to-5 job. As soon as I got married and I knew I was going to have children, that's how I ended up as a teacher, because I thought, do you know what, at least in the holidays when they're at home, I will be at home with them. And in the morning I can drop them to school, and after school I can collect them. In those days teaching was much easier. Obviously it's not like that anymore, but it does help a lot. So it is the right of every child in Islam to have the right kind of bonding and being cared for, basically. And the caringness should come from the father as well, not just from the mother. It's no point in the child just bonding with the mother and then there's no bonding with the father. So it's very, very important. I've never seen a man who was more compassionate to his family members than Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. That is from Sahih Muslim. And there's a nice father there playing with his little baby. Isn't that a lovely picture there? It takes 2 to make a child. It takes 2 to bring it up. Okay, and it's wrong to leave all the upbringing to the mother. There are lots of other hadiths. We've got another one here. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave us the best example of treating our children. It was his habit that he stood up whenever Fatima would enter the home. Her father, the Prophet, would stand up out of respect and kiss her forehead, take her hand, and made her sit at his place. Respect your daughters, basically. And also, spend some quality time with your spouse and children. It creates a healthy relationship and it contributes towards a sound upbringing. And that is both parents, not just one. Okay, if there are both parents around. So there you go. There's the lovely mother taking her little boy to nursery. So we're up to nursery age now. And here is the father also playing with the child after work. Your children need your presence more than your presence. And I've got another story to tell you. There was this little boy and he was taken away from his mum. Okay, and he was put in a foster home, and his foster parents gave him everything. They gave him a huge mansion house, fishing ponds, presents, you name it, he had everything. And when it was Mother's Day, we had a Mother's Day sale in our school, and he was only allowed to buy one present, only one present. Do you know what? He bought one, and then he stole the other. And he was actually then looked at by the lady who was selling and who told him off. How dare you steal that? Go to Mrs. Naim, she'll sort you out, because I was on the senior management team. And he came to me and he cried, and oh gosh, it was just so emotional. He cried and he cried. And he said, that my foster mother's not my real mother, so I want to buy this present for my real mother. The foster mother had given him money and all these things, but that didn't mean that that was his real mother. His heart was still with the real mother. So that shows that a real mother is your real mother, and any other mother, no matter what they give you, they cannot take that place. So your children need your presence more than your presence. Presence does not mean anything. It really doesn't. So here's a father now. He's painting with his child. He's a good artist. And he is spending time with his little girl, painting away. Remember that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was a very busy man with his prophethood mission and everything, running the state. But family life was still the center of his life. And this girl, she's got everything in the world. She's got a big garden, she's got lots of dollies, 3 dollies there to play with. But she's lonely. She wants to spend time with her parents. Spending time with children is more important than spending money on children. There's another story where a mother would keep going abroad and leaving her child with nannies and things. And one day at the gate, the mother said to her daughter, I'm going abroad, I'm going, I don't know, to Kenya now, so I won't see you for 2 weeks, but I've bought you this present. And the girl smacked the present on the floor and she goes, I don't want your presents, I want you. And she said that in the playground in front of everybody, and then it was all gossip in the staff room. You'll never guess what Lizzie said to her mum.
What's her name?
That's not her real name, I made it up.
Okay.
Yeah, I do know about all of that. That's not her real name. So you don't need money to lead a rich life. Good friends and a loving family are worth their weight in gold. So if your child comes up to you and says, look, please, I want you to read me a story. Dads are not allowed to say, get into bed and I'll text you a story. Okay? And the other one is the other way round. Hi, sweetie, how was your school day today? And she turns around and says, you can read all about it on my Facebook, Dad. Now, this is happening more and more nowadays. You talk to your children, you go, can you tell me about how your day was today? And they say, I'll text you. I need to go to my room, I'll text you. Not allowed to do that. Conversation is very, very important. So conversation like this, here is a dad, he is reading the story to the girl. in front of a lovely cosy fire. And here is a granddad talking to his grandson about all sorts of problems. We did talk about this last time on the Valentine's lecture, that certain things we do need to talk about them with them at a young age, because they're older, then they'll go into all kinds of bad things. And did you know that it's a proven fact that if a dad does not have time for their sons, they won't have time for them later on. So in this picture, the little boy comes up to dad while he's working. Daddy, not now, son. Daddy, not now, son, he's getting ready for work. Dad, not now, son, is on his mobile. And later on, son, he goes, not now, Dad, he's smoking. It's too late. Okay? And did you know that Imam Ibn Qayyum al-Jawziyah said, whoever neglects to teach his son that which will benefit him and ignores him has done something very bad indeed. Most children go astray because of their parents who neglect them and fail to teach them the duties and sunnahs of their religion. They neglect them when they are young, so they do not benefit themselves or benefit their parents when they grow up. So did you know that there is a direct relationship between children and putting their parents in old people's homes and parents who didn't look after them when they were young? Did you know that there has been journals to prove it? He who shows no mercy receives no mercy. That's in Bukhari and Muslim. Okay? Mobile phones is something that is having a huge impact on children's lives as well as parents. Can you see this lady? The mobile phone's supposed to be in her pocket and she's supposed to be holding the baby, and it's the other way around. The baby's in the pocket and she's holding the mobile. And this one is quickly feeding him while he's on the phone. Now, doesn't that happen a lot nowadays? Put your mobiles away at dinner time. This is a rule that all parents should put in place for their children. If you're going to come to the dining table, put your mobile away. You're not bringing it with you. That's one time when the family is together. So again, something else I saw in my job in the school, it was parents' evenings, and I would be talking to the mother about their special needs child, and the mother was on their phone the whole time, not even making eye contact with me. There's class assembly, the class is giving a lovely assembly on all their achievements. What are all the mothers doing? They're on their mobiles. Have a look at them. It's so sad. And the child is trying to make eye contact with the mother to show them that, look, Mum, this is what I have done. And the mum's too busy on her phone. Walking to school, the children want to talk to their mums. Their mums are all the way just on their phones while they're walking from their car to the school. So it's happening a lot. Also, mums are going out to work very early. I started working, believe it or not, once my child started school. So my daughter started school, and that's when I started working, only 1 day a week. Can you believe that, Mrs. Naim, not working, being at home? Okay, a bit difficult, isn't it, to understand, but I did. I went to school after they went to school, and I was always there after school to collect them, and in holidays and everything. Okay, so if you want to work, you've got to make sure all your duties are done completely first, and it is very, very difficult really to do everything properly. To a certain extent, it will have an effect on your family if you're working full-time, I'm talking about, not part-time. Part-time work is best really for mothers, because you have to juggle everything around. You are good at multitasking, but we're not that good that we can do everything 100%. Okay? And that is actually in the Telegraph, published in the Telegraph. There is a journal about the impact of busy parents, what it actually does to your children. There's a breakdown of family structure resulting in broken homes, more divorce rates, more step people in the family, more mental health problems. Children are being dumped in breakfast clubs, and they are then the ones who are being mentored. So I remember once, there was 22 children on our counselling register, and once I went to the breakfast club because I needed to talk to the lady there, and you know what, I had a heart attack when I walked in, because all those children who we were counselling, who had all said that they feel unloved by their mothers, were all in the Breakfast Club. And that was something that I actually saw with my own eyes. So we just need to be careful. Talk with your daughters, play with your sons. You need to be a better friend to them than anyone else. When they're younger, you can be like a friend, but at the same time they need to know their boundaries, and we are going to go into that in a minute. When Hassan, the Prophet's grandson, came running into the Prophet's room and jumped down in front of him, the Prophet ﷺ embraced him and kissed him and said, "Oh Allah, love him and love those who love him." That's Bukhari and Muslim. You are also allowed to let children run around, did you know, in a mosque? Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that a mosque should be somewhere where they are welcomed. Something which men also, this is actually peekaboo. Actually, peekaboo will come to in a minute, which is a milestone in children's development. But also something men can really help out with, which is a special trait that Allah has given to men, is they are more energetic and more sporty. So they are the ones who should go out to the parks and play with their children. Okay? The men has got that special role. And this peekaboo exercise is very, very important. Did you know that at 10 months in the clinics, that is a milestone exercise that the pediatrics do to see if your child is developing okay socially. So peekaboo, right before the beginning of time actually, mothers have always done peekaboo with their children. In the Pakistani culture it's called cha, you know, when they go cha, cha, like that. That's the same as peekaboo. Very, very important. While we are playing with our children, we mustn't neglect our own religion. So at the same time, we do need to realize that our wealth and our children are but a trial, whereas Allah with him is a great reward. And we've got, "O you who believe, don't let your riches or your children distract you from the remembrance of Allah." Okay, and that is in Surah Munafiqun, chapter 63, verse 9, the hypocrites. So you mustn't give so much time that you neglect your duty towards Allah. Now, motor development is a really big one where parents are not helping their children. We're locking up our children in seatbelts, which I know we have to do because of the way the world is. Safety. We're putting them on what do you call those, high chairs for eating. This one's pushed into there while we do our cooking, into their chairs. And even the baths have got these closed little stools where they're just bound in there. Did you know that this is all having a very big impact on the development of children at the moment? In the olden days, we would be left free in the car, and as the car turned, our balance would go with the car. Yes? We would have to balance on here as well, wouldn't we? We would have to balance on there. No straps. We would just sit on a normal chair. None of us had high chairs. In the bath, we would be swimming away in the water. All of this increased balance. So, as parents, we need to just be wary that all of this can end up with early motor development problems. So we need to play more with them outside. So dads do need to take them more outside. Factors affecting early motor development is also not popping them on a carpet, not letting them crawl freely and play. So this cross movement, where you're crossing your midline and the left and the right hemispheres are being crossed, is stopped. And things like stair gates is a big problem. Let them go up the stairs. Let them tumble down a couple of times.
Supervised.
Supervised, of course, yes. So this cross movement happens when you go upstairs. Okay, this cross movement is very, very important. And when it's not done, I know that in our school we had to run a big gym trail or motor control program. Who's got gym trail in their school? This is what it's for the children to go back and learn some of those things that we did as children. like skipping and hula hooping. Who remembers those space hoppers? We did all of these as children, skateboards. That's a pogo stick. I don't think half of these are not allowed nowadays thanks to safety regulations. But all of these climbing frames, all the things that we did as children, the children are not doing anymore, and that's having a big impact on their sporting capacity and things like that. So very, very important. And also thanks to IT, we're not writing anymore. So things like this helps with fine motor skills. This is Scooby-Doo's, which we did as children, Rubik's Cube. Laces are very important. How many children don't know how to do laces nowadays? Because of thanks to the Velcro trainers that are out. Jacks, conkers, all of that kind of stuff. Jacks we loved as children. We'd play them all day and all night. And that was very good fine motor skills. Factors affecting later motor development and social interaction is definitely television and computers. Did you know that the average child nowadays starts watching television at 3 months? And did you know that compared to in 1971 it was 4 years, and that was lucky if you had a television in 1971. So it's very, very bad for you. It stops you socializing. When you're on the television, you don't talk, okay? You're too busy concentrating on the program. Some of these things, obviously, we have to do nowadays, even through homework. The homework set is all doing on computers. But it's your duty as parents to limit that. Once they've done their homework, off it goes. Computer games, yes, you can do it in limitation, like with everything else, but over the top, that's what helps with addictions. And did you know there are so many journals out there. I know actually a Muslim psychotherapist, and she said all her clients are young children who are addicted to games and they don't know it. So they're depressed, but they don't know why. They don't want to go out. We don't want to go out. They'd rather stay inside and play on their computer games. And it is having a huge impact socially. Family gatherings in the past, look at that, everybody's talking away, playing together. We would invent games to play with each other. And now what's happening? The whole family, you're in a restaurant and everyone's got their mobile phones out. I went to give a talk in Southend very recently in a restaurant, and that was a very social event. And it was so apparent. All the mums were all talking away, smiling, laughing. And you looked at the teenage daughters, and each and every one of them were on their phones, not talking to anybody. When it comes to social gatherings like weddings, leave your phone at home. And it is up to parents to set that boundary. We're going to a wedding, leave your phone at home. You're going there to socialise, basically. And even when you go on holiday, leave your mobiles at home. You go on holiday to talk and swim and to socialise together. Not look at these two. They've been on their phone because they've got suntan lines on their phones. So it's very, very important. Okay? It's true, isn't it? You're all laughing, but it is completely true what I'm saying. Right. Women have the same rights against men as men have against them, but men have a degree above them. What do we mean by that? Are we being oppressed there? No, we're not being oppressed. What does that mean?
We're being protected.
We're being protected, and men are the breadwinners of the family naturally. They're better at maths. Why are men better at maths and physics? Because they're the ones who are going out, earning the living, earning the money, and the business, trading and all of that kind of stuff. So it is the man's duty to protect his family and provide food, shelter and clothing. And you get rewarded for it. Prophet Muhammad said to put a morsel of food into your wife's mouth is sadaqah, charity. There he is feeding his wife some dates. Isn't that lovely? What a lovely picture. Okay, and men are the protectors and maintainers of women. So that is their main role within a family. They are also mahrams for their wives and daughters as well. They're big and strong. Allah has made them big and strong for a reason. They're our bodyguards, aren't they? That's why we keep them as our mahrams when we go out. Naturally, men are always bigger and stronger than women. When they have races out on sports days and things, why is there separate men's race and a separate girls' race? Why don't they just mix them all up? Why are builders more men than women? Let's face it, men are stronger. Okay, the next thing is education. The very first word revealed in the Quran was Iqra, read. Also, the seeking of knowledge is obligatory for every Muslim, male and female, and that's in Tirmidhi. So again, women are very, very good at speaking and communication. They're very good with their communication. Allah has given them brilliant speech skills. So from a very, very early age, mothers should be teaching their children how to speak. I've been on so many speech and language courses, and each time it's mothers are not speaking with their children and the children don't know how to speak. Okay? So very important for mothers to do that role. And fathers are good with maths. They can help their children with the maths kinds of things. Okay? And if we look at this picture, reading is very important. Do you know nowadays people, this is what's going to happen in the future. They're looking at that book and they're saying, what is that? What the hell is that? Okay? Because even books is e-books nowadays. It's not the same. Go back to your own time. Wasn't it so good to sit down and read a novel? And we used to have books under our pillow and we'd sit and we would read. It's not the same reading on a screen. So get your children to read books. Okay, we're looking at English education here. And here we go. It says it's called reading. It's how people install new software into their brains. So this is all becoming e-books, but we need to actually get a book and we need to try and read it. Education is important in Islam. Like I said, seeking knowledge is important. And the way the Muslim culture is at the moment, it is more harder for us to get jobs. It is more harder for us to get into universities, thanks to the stigma of Islamophobia. We have to do 100 times better than other people to get to the same position. I'll give you an example. When I went to Buckingham Palace recently, what was really interesting was everyone else there who was white British English, non-Muslim, had all only done one thing to get there. So they'd just like raised some money for charity for some children. And then when they asked me, what did you do? And I gave them this great big long list, it was really apparent. Someone actually said it to me, that you know, as a Muslim, you had to do more to get here, don't you? They had a joke about it. So we have to do a lot more to get to the same level. Ask anybody who's in a job trying to strive for the headship or the upper posts. The non-white British non-Muslim people get there first without doing anything, and we have to work much harder. So it is up to us really to try and make our children be educated in good professions. It is our duty to do that. And we shouldn't let them just say, yes, we want to do this, and then just let them get on with it. It's not that culture for Muslims, believe me. Okay? But sometimes the children, our children may be special needs. Okay? So these are two poor children who are special needs, and they don't know what to do, and the teacher is just blabbering on the blackboard. And they have had LSA support, and you have done whatever you could, but the poor things are still special needs. In that case, you let them do what they want to do. Okay? There is a hadith to say that the children of this time will be different from the children of the time of their parents. So in that case, you let them do what they want to do. On the whole, you should let them do what they want to do, but you should try and influence them to get into good professions as Muslims. But if they are at this level, then let them do what they want to do. They will prosper better that way. So, that did not sound like clapping at all, but it was supposed to be clapping. So at the beginning, they will say, I won't do it, I can't do it. Then, with a bit of encouragement, I want to do it. How do I do it? I'll try to do it. I can do it. I will do it. Yes, I did it. So in the end, inshallah, it will be a good, happy ending. And they will achieve all their targets. But how can we help them achieve their targets? We have to take an interest in their education. We need to go to their parents' evenings. When I was doing my teacher training, there was a school in East London, and I was the class teacher at the time, and I found it absolutely shocking that the white British English people were coming to all the parents' evenings and the Asians were not there. Do you know, I used to get really upset. And the teacher used to ask me as an Asian that, do you know why the parents aren't taking an interest in their children's education? I see that in different areas, but this area in particular, no, none of them. They were not interested. What do you expect then? Do you think they're going to do well? So we should celebrate their achievements. I do know some parents who don't even bother going to their children's graduation ceremonies. I do know that. Okay? It is important to take an interest in their education, and later on when they go to university, visit them in university. This is not a non-Muslim culture where you just leave them, they're adults now and you don't even look at them again. Visit them in university, even if you have to go on the train. These two are. Okay? Apart from the other education, what's the next kind of education that is very, very important? Islamic education is very, very important. And did you know that the best way to do that is really to, there's no gift a parent can give his child that is better than good manners. That's in Tirmidhi. And it's very, very important for both men and women to give that kind of education to their children. The top two manners, which I see in the Islamic community, which are not happening, is number one, children not saying salam, okay, which I think the parents are telling their children, because I see it, but they're not doing it. And it's really important. Saying salam is very, very important. And sometimes the children will say salam to me here at the madrasa, but then they'll see me on an open day, and they don't even come to me and say salam. And I find that really, really rude. And I do tell those children afterwards that, hang on a minute, did you come to the open day yesterday? And how comes you didn't come and say salam to your teacher? Because that is actually rude. Okay? The other biggest bad habit which children are learning from their adults is walking in late everywhere. And that, I'm telling you now, Islam has got a bad name out there because of that. There's a vicar I came across who went to an Asian wedding, and he called me up the next day and he said to me that in your weddings, is the actual ceremony not important? The actual nikah ceremony. And I said, of course it is. And he goes, oh, that's interesting you say that, because I went to a wedding yesterday and there was nobody there at the time of nikah, and when it was dinner time, everybody walked in. And you know, that day I wanted to crawl in a hole and not come out again. I was so embarrassed. I really was. It is a well-known fact out there now that Muslims go late everywhere. And yet if you look at our religion, everything is based around time. Our prayer times are based around time and to be done on time. The adhan, on time. Who invented clocks? Muslims. How can we invent clocks and then go late everywhere? It's shameful, isn't it? So those two top habits are going down into our children. So it's important that we sort that out. The closer you get to Allah, the closer you are to each other. Umar radiallahu anhu said the children to have rights over their father. The third right of the child, he should impart religious knowledge to him and teach him the Quran. Arabic is a very important one. A lot of people are teaching their children parrot fashion, the Quran, and they're not learning Arabic. They don't know what it means. And as soon as they finish the Quran, they take their children out of the madrasa. Right at the time when they really need it. Right at the time, in their teenage years, they take him out of the madrasa. And that is really bad because children forget Islam. They forget everything, and right at the time when their hormones are kicking off, they don't know their religion and can't refer to it in all their things. This is why teenagers are going wrong nowadays. Everybody knows whenever there's a lecture, my children even now at their age are still coming. And if in the madrasa there's something going on, my son was doing his A-levels, and in the middle of A-levels everybody knows I was bringing him into the madrasa. Because now he's away in university, and that's where the Islam is coming into use that I put inside him, triggered inside him. So it's very important. Fathers are the leader of their flocks. It's from the fathers the children's religion was then carried on. So it's the father's duty to make sure that the children are learning their Islam. And I also do not believe in Islam being done over the internet with an imam over Skype doing it. It's not the same. Bring them to a mosque where there's other children, where they can all learn together and have fun together. It's not the same sitting at home. It really is not the same environment. So each of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. The ruler is a shepherd and responsible for his flock. A man is the shepherd of his family and responsible for his flock. That's in Bukhari and Muslim. And we should try and make sure that our children go to paradise. Our greatest achievements. It says, and those who believed and whose descendants follow them in faith, we will join with them their descendants, and we will not deprive them of anything of their deeds. Every person for what he earned is retained. So that tells you that you will take along all your family with you to Jannah if you bring them up properly. That is in Ad-Dur, chapter 52, verse 21. And did you know that on the day of judgment, if you didn't do well, for every betrayer a flag will be raised on the day of resurrection, and it will be announced that this is the betrayal of so-and-so, the son of so-and-so. So here again, the father will be put to task here on the day of judgment. It will be publicly announced and they will be doomed. And we also know that in Jahannam as well, O you who have believed, protect yourselves and your families from a fire whose fuel is people and stones. So this is how important it is, really, to make sure that our families grow up believers. Having knowledge of your deen is good for you, but living that knowledge is best for you. And you need to be the best role model for your children. Even if you feel your children are not always listening to you, they are always watching you, so be a good role model. This is like at an early age when you read Salah and the children copy you, don't they? This is a bad dad. Have you seen him? He's smoking and he's drinking, okay? And he's probably gambled as well, and he thinks he's the king of the family, big-headed. And kids imitate their parents. If they see you thugging, they will thug. If they see you smoking, they will drink. Set good examples. Have you ever heard of the saying, like father, like son? So if the father's like that, the child becomes the same because they copy you. So you need to become the person that you would want your child to develop into. So you could teach them to pray. Al-Qamar radiallahu anhu used to say that the knowledge acquired during youth sits as clearly in the mind as writing on paper. So you start with them young, you engrave it into them young. If you teach them when they're teenagers, you can forget it. It's not going to work. Sadqa Jariyah type activities are best for parents to teach their children because they carry on those when you're dead. So if you teach your children to pray, every time they do it, the blessings will go to you right to the day of judgment. I know mothers here who leave their children here in the madrasa and they just let me get on with it and they don't do a thing at home. More barakah to me, I say, but then they're not getting any ajr, are they? Also, if you teach your children to pray, then you need to do it yourselves. You can't expect them to pray when you're not doing it. So this mum is waking up her son, wake up, it's already Fajr. And this is my favourite picture. Can you see here, there is a dad and he's praying with his children in 1996. And in 2013, the same jumper, the same cupboard in the corner, and the same expressions on their faces, and the children have grown up and they're still praying. He instilled it into them at a young age, and it's still carrying on now. The only thing that's changed is the television has become flat screen. Discipline is very, very important. You are not your children's friends, you are their parents. And yes, we are allowed to give you a whack here and there with a shoe. Okay? Who's had a chitter before when they were young? Herbal treatment with no side effects. A device used by Punjabi parents for reshaping their kids for a better tomorrow. Abu Dawood and Ahmed narrated Prophet Muhammad said, teach your children to pray when they're 7 years and beat them lightly if they don't pray when they're 10 years old. So when we say beat them lightly, you're not allowed to leave a mark on the skin, and you're not allowed to touch their face. And there is an increase in behaviour, emotional, social problems. That's published in the Journal of Marriage and Family. In 2002, it started by Wiley, and he said that there is an increase because of the lack of discipline. Think of schools. We took away the cane, and children are really naughty. We can't do anything at the end of the day. When the cane was there, discipline was better. So discipline is very, very important. And discipline, what I see in the community, is to do with food. Whenever the child doesn't want anything, we give them whatever they want to eat. Think of our days, whatever was cooked, we ate it. Here's Jesus here, about to give his fish and bread out. And from the audience, someone says, I can't eat vegan, I'm a vegan. Has that fish been tested for mercury? Is that bread gluten-free? It's a load of rubbish. You just give them what you've got, and that's it. They stay hungry. You don't take out the chicken nuggets and chips so that they go fat like this bloke here. While the televisions are getting thinner, everyone's getting fatter. We're doing it ourselves. We're giving them all the junk food they want to eat. If we made roti and salan, that's what they're going to have, and that's the end of that. I'm your mother, and you have to listen to me. Then they know they cannot get away with it. Okay? What else are we allowed to do to children if they are naughty? What else can we do? Someone did get it last year. What can we throw on them?
Water.
Water. There you go. She's having a tantrum. Let's chuck some water on her. This is to cool them down. When we do vudu on our hands, our head, okay, our feet. They're the hottest areas. Hot-headed, hot hands, hot feet, to cool them down. So when they get into tantrums, we are allowed to give them a cold bath or something to cool them down. Okay, Anas said about him, I swear by Allah, I've never seen anyone show more mercy to his family than Allah's Messenger. That's in Muslim 2316. He never had to do this. Okay? And this is something I see in schools. Sometimes the mums got the discipline, but the dads are all soft. No, leave them. Let them do what they like. This is where a child will go wrong. Whatever the dad says, the mum says the same, or the other way around. The rules have got to be the same. If you disagree, then you tell them, not in front of them, but another time you discuss it amongst yourselves. In front of the child, you show unity. And this is something I see in schools where the bad grades, in the olden days, the parents would tell the child off, why are your grades bad, when the teacher's telling the parents, and look at it nowadays. The parents are actually blaming the teacher. The child knows you're sticking up for him, and look at his face. We see this all the time in schools. If your child does something wrong, you do not stick up for them. That is making them worse. They'll do it even more. Or the dad mustn't say, let him do what he likes. The child will then do whatever the dad wants. They know there's one person there to protect him. It needs to be the same. Our duty as parents is also to marry our children up young. Umar radiallahu anhu said, to whomsoever a child is born, he should be given a good name, sound education, and when he becomes of age, he should be married. And that's actually in some of the English magazines as well. So more bad behaviour. The girls are getting mouthy, Do not use the sharpness of your speech on the mother who taught you how to speak. That was Imam Ali who said that. And you have to please your father. Our beloved Prophet Muhammad said, Allah's pleasure lies in a father's displeasure. Allah's displeasure lies in a father's displeasure. Allah's pleasure lies in a father's pleasure. Father is the best gate of the gates of paradise. So you're not allowed to make your parents angry, because in order to please other people, at teenagers you're pleasing more your friends than you are your parents, because those people did not spend their lives building yours. Nobody will feel for you as much as your parents feel for you. When you're angry with your parents, imagine life without them. As they become teenagers, their mouths get bigger, but you're not allowed to shout at your parents. What is the word in Islam that we're not allowed to say? Oof. And oof doesn't just mean saying the word oof, it means rolling your eyes, or tutting, or shrugging your shoulders, or ignoring as well. The amount of teenagers that just ignore their mums. Parents didn't leave you when you were young, so don't leave them when they are old. When they are teenagers, the role reverses. Whatever our parents did for us as children, the children do back then to the parents. So if your mum is ill, you go and you help her. You make her a cup of tea, you give her medicines. The role reverses. Okay? Our parents were patient when we were young. Now it's our time to be patient during their old age. One day we will also become old like our parents. And it says in the Quran, your Lord has decreed that you worship none but Him, and be kind to parents. If one or both of them reach old age in your life, say not to them a word of disrespect, nor shout. Again, the word uf is used. That's in Bani Israel, Surah 17, ayah number 23. And this one is a really good one. And out of kindness, lower to them, your parents, the wings of humility, and say, my Lord, bestow on them your mercy, even as they cherished me in childhood. That is in the Quran, chapter 17, verse 24. And it's a very powerful words there. It talks about lower to them the wings of humility. It's like you're putting a big wing over them and covering them up and protecting them. And be humble against them, like you're bowing down to your parents. And it also tells you that throughout ages, they will be reversed back to a child again. Okay? So if we grant long life to any, we cause him to be reversed in nature. That's actually in Surah Yasin. Is holding the baby, yes, for support. And can you see here, she is now supporting her mother. And the mother is becoming smaller and smaller and smaller and weaker. And in the end, she's carrying her mother. So the mother now has become like a baby. Yes, the role has reversed. It is exactly the same cycle for a father as well. So if you look at this picture, there's the baby. The baby's growing big. He's probably at his strongest here. As soon as they start working, then that's when they lose all their health. And then straight after working, he's becoming older, and now he's ended up in a wheelchair. So in short, towards the end of life, he returns to the same state of weakness with which he had started life in this world. And remember, when we showed the very early picture of the baby being born, we said how short the life was, from the adhan to the iqamah. Amazing. So Allah is He who created you in a state of weakness, then gave you strength after weakness, then after strength gave you weakness and grey hair. He creates what He wills, and it's He who is the all-knowing, the all-powerful. That is in Surah Rum, the Romans, Quran, chapter 30, verse 54. So here again is the life cycle, right from the baby. He's graduating. He's got his money. As soon as he starts earning money, that is where the health goes. And now he is getting weaker and weaker, and at the end, in the grave. Okay, now normally, women, they stay alive longer than the men. Does anybody know why that is? Why do women stay alive longer? Any ideas?
I think less stress.
Less stress? No, definitely not. Women go through more stress than men, believe me.
I think men take more serious stress, you know, hard work.
Not quite. Did you know that females have got strong immune systems, which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, so that we can look after our children. So we withstand more flus and colds. This is where this thing man flu has come from. A man has a flu and they're straight in the bed, whereas women are stronger. So our immune systems are stronger, and also our female hormones have made our hearts more stronger. That's a well-known medical fact. Okay? And because of that, on the whole, you will find that men die quicker and leave widows behind. So here is our widow or a divorced woman, anything. It is then up to the sons then to look after their poor widowed mother, and maintenance has to be provided on a reasonable scale, it tells you in Surah Baqarah. It's a duty on the pious, chapter 2, verse 241. And obviously nowadays in this country, there are benefits. There's benefit systems. Don't forget, when the Quran was revealed, there was no benefit system. This is going back in countries where you don't have any money. And once you're a widow or you're divorced, that's the end of you, basically. Nobody marries you and you don't have any financial support. But in this country, yes, there is a such thing as living allowance, child benefit, all the rest. Then you have to look at the circumstances of the person. Okay? And now we need to look at what can we do for our parents who have now passed away. The poor things are in their graves. What can we do for them? So Abu Said Saidi said, we were once sitting with Rasulullah when a man from the tribe of Salma came and said to him, Messenger of Allah, do my parents have rights over me even after they have died? Rasulullah said, yes. You must pray to Allah to bless them with His forgiveness and mercy. So that is one of the first things that you can do as children. You can pray for your parents, and those prayers will reach them directly in their graves. Also fulfill the promises they made to anyone. So they might have told somebody that I will do this for you. Then it's up to the children to fulfill that promise. And also, you should then respect their relations and friends. So what a lot of people do is take on maybe a friend of that mother of theirs and treat them like a mother. And whatever you do for that person then reaches your mum. That's in Abu Dawood and Ibn Majah. So one of the first things that you do is that Ibn Abbas narrated that Sa'd bin Ubadah radiallahu anhu asked the Messenger of Allah about a vow that was due from his mother who died before fulfilling it. The Prophet, peace be upon him, said, fulfill it for her. So there is the actual hadith, Tirmidhi, volume number 3, which tells you that any vows or oaths or any money that they owed somebody, some mother might have died in debt, then it's up to you as a child to fulfill that debt. Also, there are so many sadaqah jariyah things that you can do for her. You can plant a tree for him or her. You can plant a tree or a plant. From it, whoever, anybody eats anything or sits under the shade of it, that blessing will go to your parents directly right to the Day of Judgment. This is why if you go to Gardens of Peace, there are ways where you can buy olive trees and things like that. Olive trees are very good because not only do they give shade, they give oil as well as fruit and habitat to animals as well. So, here we are. This is a picture of two. Here is a dad who himself planted a tree, himself, while his child was alive. And now that child is using that tree and says, thanks, Dad. So when you do the things yourself, it is much better. Some people, they don't do anything in their lifetime, don't do any charity work, and they leave it completely to their children, that when we die, they'll do it for us. Gone are those days. The new generation are not as loving and caring as what we are. Believe me, they are living in a different environment, in a different culture to what we did. Okay? So we cannot rely on them. What you do for yourself is the best thing. Do it while you are alive. Whatever charity you can give, plant your own trees. But if you want to do something for your parents because they're dead, because it helps to satisfy you, then planting a tree is one of the things that you can do. And not only that, anything that your parents taught you, if they taught you how to read the Quran, if they taught you how to read Salah, if they taught you how to do Salam, every time you do that, your parents will get the barakah right in their graves. And this is why I said earlier on, it's very important that mothers do their bit. Don't just leave them in the madrasa and get the madrasa teacher to get all the barakah, even though I'm a madrasa teacher and I like getting all the barakah. Do some things yourself. It's your duty. Teach them how to read at home. Teach them how to memorize a surah of the Quran. The best surah to memorize from your mother is Al-Fatiha, because that you do in your prayers all the time, don't you? Each time, can you imagine, 5 times a day you're reciting it, the barakah that you will get in your grave. So do that kind of stuff. So that's in Muslim and Tirmidhi, knowledge left for people to benefit from in 1376. And like I said, that knowledge can be left from fathers as well. Some fathers are more proactive. They bring their children to the mosque. You are getting barakah for that as well, for bringing them to the mosque. Or teaching them maybe tajweed at home or something like that. Anything good. Anything good. Did you know that in Islam, people talk about sadaqah jariyah, but they don't talk about a different kind of sadaqah jariyah, which is when you teach your children bad things. Did you know when a parent teaches your children bad things, they also count against you, right, while you're in your grave. So say you taught your child to smoke, and every time he smokes, you will get the bad in your grave as well. Did you know that? A lot of people only focus on the good, but anything bad, you taught them how to swear. Every time they swear, you will get the bad. Okay? So we have to be very careful. And direct dua. And righteousness and God-fearing child that you left behind, you continuously praise to the Almighty for the soul of his parents. And that's in Sahih Muslim. A lot of people, after someone dies, gets other people to read the Quran, starts doing all these khatams and all this business. If you, as the children, directly read, that reaches your parents first. The others doesn't reach your parents. They can do it for their own benefit. Okay? Did you know that, so that's mentioned in Tirmidhi. Also, did you know a servant will have his rank raised on the Day of Judgment and will say, "Oh my Lord, how has this come about for me?" He says, "Through your son seeking forgiveness for you." So some people will think they're going hellfire, and all of a sudden they'll go to Jannah, and they'll ask Allah what happened then. They said, "Well, you know, your children, they prayed for you, and your rank has now been raised." Isn't that amazing? So children, you really do need to remember this, okay? Once we're gone, you pray for us. A mother is she who can take the place of all others, but whose place no one else can take. I gave you that example of that boy who was actually taken away because he was neglected, but he still wanted a present for his mum at the end of the day. He said that that lady's not his mother, the foster mother had given him all those presents. So in Islam, every day is Mother's Day. Love, respect and obey her every day. And every day is Father's Day. Love and respect your father every day. Ibn Abbas narrated, the Prophet said, the pious offspring who casts a single look of affection at his parents receives and reward from Allah equal to reward of accepted Hajj. That's in Sahih Muslim. That's you just smiling at your mums. Okay? Imagine that. Also, Hajj is another thing that you can do for your parents, but if in their lifetime they had the money and the health and they didn't go, then they will be asked on that. So you can do Hajj for your parents, but only once you've done your own Hajj first. But they then will be asked, why didn't you go when you had the health and the money? You went to Florida in so-and-so year, and you went to America in so-and-so year, then why didn't you go and do Hajj? That's one of the first 5 pillars. The 5 pillars you will be asked on first. Dads are priceless treasures in life that can never be replaced. Value them to your last breath. Let them know you love them every day. So this is a very special dua which is in the Quran, did you know, for children to be pious. Our Lord, grant us from among our wives and offspring comfort to our eyes and make us an example for the righteous. That's in Al-Furqan, the criterion. Let's all say Ameen to that. Ameen. And now we will finish off with questions on parents. Yes?
Are Muslims allowed to adopt children from different backgrounds?
Yes, but then they should become Muslim first. So yes, that is allowed, but they should really take their shahada and become Muslim first. Because even if they are from different backgrounds, they will still be brought up as Muslim, as the parents are Muslim. You see? Okay? Yes?
Regarding the circumcision,
Yes.
I heard some Muslim journalist 3 days ago, I forgot his name,
Yes.
he was talking about every Muslim should seek permission before doing circumcision for his child at 7 years old when they are growing. And
Seek permission from whom?
from the child. He said he's not doing circumcision for the child until the child grows up and he asks the child's permission.
Yeah, that's the English law, that's not the Sharia law.
Yeah,
Yes?
it's an English journalist, it's a Muslim journalist.
Right.
That was his view for 3 days ago. So he's trying to oppose
Yeah,
circumcision.
there's
So what's
all of
your-
this kind of stuff coming out. According to Islam,
Yeah.
by the 7th day, a child should be circumcised. If they can't be circumcised while they're a baby, then by 7 years old, it says in the hadiths that they should be circumcised. And if you look at the times of Ibrahim alayhi salam, right going back, did you know that all the prophets have circumcised?
So my point is, as a Muslim, opposing a Muslim tradition like that, so what would be his stance?
Right. The stance is, if that is the law in this country, if that is a law put into the laws, then we will have to follow that. Because we have to, as Muslims, follow the law of the land. So if it says in the law, written in the law that we have to get permission from the child, then that's what we will have to do.
The guy pushing for the law is a Muslim. So is he like a hypocrite or?
Yes,
to
of
Islam?
course he
Yeah,
is.
that's what I'm.
He doesn't know the faith himself properly.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, mind you, when you go on holiday to take your child and do it there. Because the law of this land won't be in the other countries.
But there is no current law at the moment.
Now that's what he's talking about,
he's
isn't
pushing
he?
for the
That
law.
he's
He's
pushing for a law.
it, isn't
Yes.
it? But there isn't
But there
any
might
law.
be, so that's what he's asking, what would you do in that circumstance? Because when you're pushing for a law, it probably will happen. Everything is against Muslims at the moment, let's face it. There's laws about everything.
That would
nowadays.
also affect the Jewish children as well.
It will, and actually the Jews are very good at opposing that kind of stuff, so they will stand up as well, because they get circumcised as well. So when it happens, we will see, but in the meantime, I think you're right to bring it up, because this is the future. And you know what, when something's in the pipeline, it always does happen. So that's what I've seen. Okay?
Can we
Any
just,
more questions?
Can we just emphasise on the fact that there is no such thing as a female circumcision in Islam because there
Yes.
are some cultural
Yes,
practices?
yes. FGM, female genital mutilation, is rife out there, and that is more in the lands, in more African lands, but it doesn't have to be Muslim lands. That is a cultural thing, and basically why that happens is to stop any kind of fornication happening before marriage. Fornication is any outside relationship before marriage. So what parents do is, instead of verbally telling their children that they shouldn't fornicate or to wear a hijab to protect yourself, they physically cut those regions so that it is not possible, full stop. That has huge psychological effects in the future, medical problems, all kinds of stuff. And that does happen. There is actually a law against that in this country now as well. But again, it doesn't stop parents going back home and getting it done from African countries. It does still happen.
But that's wrong.
It is wrong. Of course it's wrong because, one, you are hurting yourself. We're not allowed to damage our bodies. You are hurting yourself. And two, it can be done in a different way by education and explaining to children that in our religion we do not have any outside relationships outside of marriage. That's fornication as well as adultery and all the rest. If you educate them, then they will know, won't they? Okay, a hijab is a way of stopping that, isn't it? It's a barrier straight away to stop that. Like nuns, they wear hijabs as well, because they don't get married. It's to stop that relationship happening in the first place. Okay? Right. Yes.
Regarding what she said, I lost my memory. I saw a hadith about the FGM, that the Prophet ﷺ was talking about FGM, that it's okay to be done for a lady.
Yes, that's different. FGM is different to circumcision. There is a hadith, yes, about circumcision for ladies, but that is a very light operation where you just remove the foreskin, that's all. It's not female genital mutilation where they're completely cut. You're not allowed to cut. Khadija, if you could put the lights on, please. Okay, any more questions? That's a very important point, actually, because it is mentioned. It's supposed to increase sexual desires and things like that. It is in the hadiths, but that is different to female genital mutilation. Okay, and also it is not required for women, whereas for men it is very strongly recommended to get done. Okay? Yes.
It is anticipated that, I read somewhere in the future, Islam will spread faster due to outdo other religions. Is it due to the fact that...
Say that again, sorry. Is this related to this first?
Yeah.
It has to be related to this topic.
Okay, I'm going to answer.
Sorry.
Okay, basically.
I have to keep him in order because he always strays and goes into other things.
Okay,
yes.
Is it due to the fact that parents are going to have more children in the future, or is it that, you know, that kind of more people are coming to Islam?
Can you start again, please?
Okay, right. I read somewhere in the future it is anticipated within 50-60 years that
Yes.
Islam will spread faster
Yes.
as compared to other religions.
Yes.
Is it due to the fact that that this will happen due to birth rate going up, that parents will have more children?
No, that is actually Islamophobia that is spreading at the moment, about the fact that we have a lot of children, because if you look at the Jews, they also have a lot of children. Irish Catholic families have a lot of children. The Islam is spreading, but it is not because of the birth rate, it is because people are looking into the religion and thinking, wow, what a wonderful religion, it's got an answer to everything. The Quran is the only book in the world that is still intact and not changed for over 1400 years. And it's the original word of God, completely unchanged. So people are looking into things like this and going towards it. And since 9/11 happened, if you think about the amount of Islamophobia out there, Islam has been on the rise since 9/11. Instead of it going down with all the worst that's spreading around it, people are actually looking into the religion more, and it's spreading better, bigger and better. So, and it's not because of the birth rate. That is something which non-Muslims are spreading around to cause fear. Because if you think about it nowadays, especially in this country, people are not having more than 2 children. They're all growing up so bad, we don't want more than 2 or 3. Thanks to all the behaviour problems. 2 or 3 is enough, thank you. So it's not because of that. Okay, any more questions about parents or children? Or disciplinary and things like that? Nothing? Okay, we'll stop right there then. Thank you very much for coming, and inshallah I'll keep you updated on future talks. We've got an interfaith quiz night coming up. That will be really fun if you want to come, but I'll send you the poster. Or you can have a look at the poster on the way out. Okay. All right then. Thank you.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah.